Good Friday morning and welcome to Real Talk on the I Love CVille Network. My name is Jerry Miller. We're live in Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world, and it's great to be with you guys. We have a lot on today's docket. Keith Smith of the Yes Team Realtors has welcomed Charles Allbaugh to the program, certified public accountant. He's going to join us in about 4 minutes to answer your questions on what may be on your mind here, whether you get your business back going, whether your business is getting some stimulus or relief money, whether you're getting it yourself from a personal standpoint, your wife's getting it, a dependent may be getting it. We also have Congressman Riggleman on the program. He's coming at about 10:45 today on Real Talk, powered by the Yes Team Realtors. Judah Wickower is our director. Thank you, Judah, for helping making this program possible. Let's go to the studio camera and let's welcome the distinguished gentleman to the show. Keith Smith, good morning, my friend.
Good morning, good morning. By popular demand, the mustache is back on Tuesday. I've got a bunch of private messages and texts and emails, and they were very disappointed about not having the mustache, so the mustache is back, guys. So.
I'm glad it's back. You're looking good. A lot has transpired, and that's the crazy thing. And in today's COVID-19 world, every day, new stuff. We have a little hope, a little positivity, a little opportunity on the horizon after yesterday's announcement from President Trump, about the economy potentially opening back up again, Keith Smith.
Yeah, so that's actually the question I'm going to ask the Congressman when he comes on. What does that actually look like? Saying it, and what does it actually look like? And as the Congressman Riggleman is on the Financial Services Committee, so he can share a bunch of stuff, and hopefully folks will chime in with questions. We've got both guests on for a little bit longer than normal, so if you have any questions, real estate or otherwise, we've pivoted from real estate to life, and we usually talk about life more than real estate anyway. But hey, this is your opportunity to do it, and I think at the end of the show, we're going to give away a couple of $25 Marie Bet gift cards, so help a local restaurant and a sponsor of the show.
We have 2 gift cards to Marie Bet. We'll ask a Charlottesville trivia question here and ask you to put the answer in the comment section of any of these 12 Facebook pages you're watching the show on. Few states watching this program. Realtors across Central Virginia on the network now watching us. Before we get to Charles, and Charles, if you're watching, we'll reach out to you in about 60 seconds. What are you following here from Charles' standpoint? What are you excited to talk to him about?
Well, I'm just excited to pick up the conversation where we left off. I just had all kinds of questions about, for instance, we all just got the 20 whatever amount of money that got into your account. I know Yonna and I did. So what is the tax ramifications of that? Or is there? So, these things are moving so fast, and I know Charles is a dear, close personal friend, and I know he's rifling through this thing and trying to understand the CARES Act the best way that he can. So
I love it. Judah Wickower, I'm going to get Charles on the line. I'm giving you a heads up. Let's give Roy Wheeler Realty Company some love as we get Charles on the line.
Yeah, so shout out to Michael and the team over there and Vincent. They're doing great things by the real estate agents, just trying to push out information via Zoom. And as you know, my wife does coaching and mentoring for the company, so she's on nonstop Zoom meetings. So we're just trying to help educate.
We kind of teased the interview here with Charles Allbaugh by introducing him as the man, the myth, the legend. I said that may be the first time a CPA has man, myth, and legend introducing him there. This guy did so well on this program. Was it Tuesday that we have welcomed him back on Friday? Number of questions already coming in for Charles. Judah, he is on the line. Are you ready, my friend, for him? You are. You're giving us the thumbs up. All right, Charles, welcome to the program. Good morning. A lot has certainly transpired, my friend, since you joined us on the program on Tuesday. The show is yours, sir.
Oh, thank you, Jerry, and nice seeing you, and thanks for having me back. Hello, Keith. Hope you're doing well.
I am.
And it's great to be back. A lot's happened. Some of the biggest things that I've seen is, the payroll protection loan program ran out of money yesterday. And it's very fortunate that you have the Congressman on there. So hopefully he's going to be able to give us some good news about additional funding for our small businesses. I know a lot of businesses that applied and weren't it was just overwhelmed. The system was overwhelmed, so a lot of people didn't get any money. One of the things that we may want to talk about is some different strategies that small businesses can use, because it's not only the payroll protection program. You can actually use payroll tax credits to offset some of your expenses right now. If you are paying anybody on sick leave, if they have the COVID, you can take a credit on your payroll taxes. You can if you're retaining your employees in your small business, you can get an employee retention credit. So there are different ways that you can use the system to help your business. You can defer your payroll taxes. If you don't have the cash flow right now, you can pay half of it throughout the year, and then the half through the rest of the year, or by the end of 2022. So there's lots of things that we can do. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program has run out of money as well. So it's popularly called the EIDL. A lot of folks did get some advance from that this year or this week. And originally everybody kind of thought you were going to get $10,000 just out the gate. It was just too many people applying, so they had to come up with another way to equitably distribute that money. So then what they decided was $1,000 per employee. So if you have, if you're a small business, have 3 or 4 employees, then hopefully you got $3,000 or $4,000, and that helps a little bit too. Every little bit helps. People start getting the economic stimulus checks and direct deposit. There's, and we can talk about what the tax impact of that is, if you like. And it looks like you want to ask a question.
I do, and I'm going to pass it to Keith here in a second. I have a number of questions already coming in here. This question is coming in 3 or 4 different times. Why do we run out of money? Small business owners, payment protection program, the payroll protection program. Running out of money here at this time has got a lot of people scared. They're wondering if there's going to be another round of funding coming. Just hit that topic right there for us.
Okay, well, that's probably more of a question for the Congressman. Because it seems to be, it seems that's a, something that Congress has to appropriate. They appropriated $350 billion for the PPP program, and there's just so much need out there. You look at the unemployment numbers. I mean, we're at depression level unemployment right now. So that I'm pretty confident they're going to get it done. They got to just work their way through it, and I think there will be more money flowing to small businesses.
So thank you for joining us again, CJ. I know you're really busy, so appreciate it. Before we get too far into it, everybody's okay at the house?
Everybody? Oh yeah, good. Yep. My wife, she's an RN, so she's on the front line still, helping treat the people that come in. And as you know, I'm the CFO of a community health center system, which we have a couple of our sites in the Congressman's district, and he's been great. His distillery has provided us with hand sanitizer, as have a lot of businesses. Everybody is stepping up during this time. We're getting local businesses making masks for us, because a lot of our patients, they're poor and they don't have the mask. So we provide them masks so that they can have that to come in and then use elsewhere too.
So we talked a little bit about, we're going to go back and talk about that other hat that you wear maybe at the back end of our conversation.
Sure. I wear many hats.
I know you do. And thank you for doing that. So let's talk about the stimulus checks, right? So Yonna and I dropped into our account, right? And I promise you I will get you our stuff for our taxes soon. I promise you.
Yeah, Keith is one of my laggers this year. Usually April 15th, I'm like, oh my gosh, and today's the 17th, I would be sitting back having a Miller Lite. Not this year,
because
it's going
totally
to July.
Got it.
And so I have a lot of folks.
Totally got it. We'll talk later offline.
That's okay.
So, but the question is, we talk business, but a lot of folks that don't own businesses watch this show. There's a 250,000 people that watch it. So am I going to get taxed on my stimulus check?
That's a qualified yes or no. The stimulus check is actually an advance on a new tax credit that will be reported on your 2020 tax return. It's based on your income and marital status. So if you're single and make under $75,000, you're going to get $1,200. Easy. If you're married and make under $150,000, you're going to get $2,400. If you have any children under the age of 17, then you'll get another $500. So when you go to file your taxes next year, if any of those things have changed, and this is where some tax planning needs to occur, you don't want to all of a sudden go from, if you're single, 75,000 to 100,000 because you had to cash out an IRA or you had to sell some stock, because you're going to have to pay some of that back. You have to stay under those income levels.
So what I'm hearing, this is very important to engage a professional, right? We talk about this on the show all the time, trusted advisors. This is the time to do that. We will get you our taxes, I promise you. Stuff that we need to do it. We've just been really busy since March trying to run 2 shows.
That's fine.
2 shows and plus real estate and stuff like that. Was that a good enough excuse for you?
That was good. That was good.
Well, that's
There
fine.
you go. So
Tell that to Uncle Sam, though.
there you go. There you go. We know Yonna's the one that runs all this anyway. So I'm gonna let this go back to Jerry, because I think he's getting some questions in on that. Or would you like me to?
No,
continue?
go. Ask another one, then
Okay.
I'll fire away.
Great,
Yeah.
great. So talk about, one of the questions I wanted to ask before is there's those who have businesses, there's a thing called a net operating loss, an NOL, right? And I'm reading some notes from how I read it, is that they're going to let you go back 5 years. Can you just talk a little bit, explain what a net operating loss is, and then what's the impact of the CARE Act on that?
I haven't. There's not a lot of people that really have net operating losses, so it's kind of a rare situation. But it occurs when you have a business and you incur a loss, and you can carry that loss forward. Sorry, I got my dog
Cool.
and somebody just came in. My son just came in. So you can take that loss and carry it forward to offset future income. But what the CARES Act allows is for you to go back and amend your previous year's taxes and apply that to previous year's income, and then get a refund that way. So you can use it that way as well.
So the reason I bring it up, I apologize. The reason I bring it up, there are a lot of restaurant owners, there's a lot of companies that they're probably in their 2020 more than likely is going to show a loss, right? So I just think it's important for them to understand what, and of course you got to reach out to your trusted advisor. But as I'm reading here, your 2020 taxes, that you can start looking backwards and see if you can add to that.
Well, we'll have to get through 2020 first in order to do that.
I agree.
So that's a little bit of the cart before the horse. So I wouldn't focus a lot on that. There are special. Some clients that do have that, but, I would say it's, less for me anyway, 0.1% of my clients have that. So I don't really focus a lot on that.
So from a CPA's perspective, there's, again, a lot of individuals watching this. Is there any information that you feel that you can share to everybody so that they, their comfort level goes up on that the CARE Act is actually going to help? There's your son in the background.
Can you hold on a second? Ty, can you take the dogs out, please? Man.
Okay, no.
Sorry about that.
I got it. This is live television.
Yeah.
A live webcast. It's fun.
I feel like that guy where the baby comes in and is walking around and stuff.
I remember that, Charles.
And I have a Yorkie who just loves to talk. So
Please jump in on that, and then I'm going to pass it over to Jerry.
okay. Do you mind repeating that? Because I was totally distracted
no worries.
with the
So
dogs.
we have 250,000 people watching it. Folks file their taxes. People are. This is an opportunity for a CPA, a trusted advisor, to share some information as it relates to the CARES Act. And one of the things we've been doing for the last how long, Jerry? A month?
Wow. 5 weeks?
Yeah. So that we're just trying to get good, accurate information out. So if there's this is an open-ended question to you, wherever you want to go with it.
Well, one of the things that there's a new form called Form 7200 where I kind of alluded to earlier. If you are eligible to take care of the family family first credits, which is if you're paying somebody the sick leave, you can get those credits, and if those credits exceed the amount of your payroll tax liability, you can actually get a refund. And then also the employee retention credit is reported on the same form, and those are great ones that I don't think a lot of people are focusing on. Everybody's focusing on getting that money from the PPP loan, but this is something that it doesn't give you, money into your, from a different source, but you don't have to pay it out. And so that's something, I'm just starting to really, really understand, everything that goes into it, because you can include health insurance costs if you're paying that for your employees in that. And so there are definitely ways that you can conserve your cash flow right now.
Well said. Questions coming in for you. Charles Allbaugh, our guest guy, certified public accountant here on the Pearl Certification Hotline. I'm going to throw this to you from viewers. Multiple times this has come in. Jerry, please ask the guest about deferring mortgage payments. If we defer mortgage payments for a few months, will we be expected to pay the lump sum for what we have missed after a few months? That's a good question.
Well, yeah, that's a great question, and I think you probably talked about it with your on Tuesday. My understanding is it is a deferment and not a forbearance. So you are going to have to pay it back. However, what I kind of feel is that mortgage companies are going to be, really trying to work with people and maybe take those, because if you defer 3 months of a $1,500 mortgage, all of a sudden you got to come up with, almost $5,000 at the end of 3 months. So if you haven't been working, where are you going to come up with $5,000? Right. I think they'll either extend it or they'll maybe put it, refinance it into your loan. Is what I kind of think is going to happen with that. But I'm not a mortgage broker. That's just me kind of trying to read the tea leaves a little bit.
So I can add a little bit to that. So the conversations I've been having with multiple mortgage brokers, you're 100% correct. They're going to tack this on the back end, right? Mm-hmm. So basically your interest is just going to accrue, right? And so when you go to sell the house, so instead of it being 30 years, it's going to be 30 years and so many months, that kind of thing. That's what everybody's doing. So, and it's an important thing to bring up, because if you take it now and sell your house 5 years from now, your net payoff, right, is going to include all this money. So if you take it, you just need to be conscious.
You're basically taking equity out of your house in order to do this. That's what you're doing. Now, an important distinction with this, and I think this is important for a lot of people to understand, is that because you're in this period, the mortgage companies are not going to report you as late on your credit report. So you're not going to have a negative effect on your credit report because of this pandemic, which I think is important, because a lot of people, they look at their Credit Karma, every week, and they keep track of their credit score. And so it's important that this does not affect that as well.
So while we're on this subject, so the mortgage interest deduction, right? So if you defer that for 5 months,
good question,
within that count, within the 2020, right, you're not going to capture that percentage of the discount. Is that correct? Or
that's mortgage interest is an itemized deduction. With the 2018 tax reform, what I saw was a huge decrease in the number of people that were able to itemize, because if you're married, it went up to 24,000. It's like 24,400 right now. If you're older, you get even a little bit more. So you have to have quite a bit of mortgage interest in order to get that. And plus the new itemized deductions, the SALT deductions, which are the state and local income tax deductions, are limited to $10,000. So if you're in a high high real estate tax state like New York or California, you're only limited to $10,000. So that's actually been one of the things that, despite the decrease in tax rates, that's the biggest thing that I've seen that's affected my clients, is that limit of just $10,000 for your state income taxes, your real estate taxes, and your personal property taxes. That's been a big negative, and I would hope that at some point when they go back and kind of tweak this, that's the first thing that they fix.
Charles, guys, is dropping some serious knowledge here on Real Talk on the I Love CVille Network. We are we're business owners that own companies that do client services. I'm an advertising agency. You're a CPA. We go B2B. And when I'm in conversation with my clients about helping their businesses, one common denominator is coming up often, Charles, and that's, should we be leery of this relief that the federal government's offering? Is it coming with back-end shoestrings that we are going to have to pay back, or we're not thinking of? I'm sure you're hearing stuff like this. Either demystify, educate, or relay kind of the knowledge that you've come across that can help with this topic.
The economic stimulus checks, I already spoke about that. You could potentially have to pay some of that back if your income, rises substantially more than it was in 2019 or 2018, because they base it on that if you haven't filed your 2019 taxes. So you do have that little bit of a risk. The PPP loan, if you are fortunate to get one so far, you need to be cognizant of being able to satisfy those requirements to make that a loan that is forgiven. So otherwise you have to pay it back. So, and there are specific criteria that you have to do. You have to pay 75% out in wages. So you got to make sure that you're paying your people. They want people to still be at least getting paid, even if they can't necessarily work. The EIDL, the grant is a grant that does not have to be paid back, and there's no, from what I understand, any verification that has to be done to prove that you use that money. It's basically, it's the small business stimulus, so there are no strings attached to that one. All of this at some point is going to come home to roost, I think, in the form of inflation or, money supply, but that's a little bit above my head, but, and that's years down the road, and, more for, economy professors and things like that.
Which, that you mentioned, next Friday I'm bringing in an economist, a doctor, for the whole hour to actually talk about that very thing. So we're excited about doing nationally known economists and regionally known economists on that stuff. So believe it or not, we buzzed through 20 minutes.
I know, right?
Anything else that you want to share? And
you saw my post on Facebook. All of us during this time, I'm an upbeat guy. I'm confident about the future, but I had a really down day this week, and I was, this stuff weighs on you, when you see the suffering that people are having, both economically and losing loved ones and everything. So, try and exercise and not drink too much. Don't start at 1 o'clock because you're quarantined. It's wait till 5, and wear a mask. And I love your mask, but if you're the cool kid on the block, you get a Packer fan.
Oh, he's a Packer fan. Wow.
Oh yeah.
Well, first of all, clearly,
I'm originally from Wisconsin. I'm a Badger. I graduated from University of Wisconsin, so I'll always be
director.
A Packer fan.
So next time you do that, Charles, turn it around. You had it upside down. There you go.
Look good, Charles.
There you go.
Hey, Charles.
Thanks, man. Appreciate your time.
And let me tell you something real quick, and I sincerely mean this. Before we let you go, you excel in this setting. You make stuff that's complicated and intimidating, and you make it easy to understand and digestible, and that's a skill, my friend. I'm grateful for your time and your talents.
Well, he's been working with me.
I love being on here, and I appreciate trying to just help people out.
You have a good day.
Yep, you too.
All right, he's fantastic. Thank you, Charles.
Bye-bye.
A couple of comments coming in. Michael Guthrie watching the program, Chief Executive Officer Roy Wheeler, Realty Company. He says, guys, I read yesterday that banks approved businesses for the PPP loans first who not only had accounts with them, but also owed the banks money.
Oh.
And he said, HUD Secretary Ben Carson confirmed that on the Buffini podcast. You're a big fan of the Buffini podcast, Keith.
Yeah, that's new information. Thank you, Michael, for sharing that. That's just kind of a example how fast this stuff is moving. And sometimes government doesn't quite get it right, but it's just moving a little bit too fast. I think everybody's doing the best that they can. To go back to the conversation with Charles, he's used to explaining things simply because he's been my CPA for 30 years, so he's used to doing that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is, who knew a CPA was going to be a hit on a show, and he doesn't know this, but he's going to get asked to come on
we have more questions.
Yeah.
Another question came in, and it just came in, or we would have asked it from Tim Claudia Carr. Please ask the CPA about college students not getting any help at all to the stimulus package. I'll tag Charles here, so maybe he can follow up in the feed. Thank you for watching that. More questions coming in. We have 2 Marie Bet gift cards we're giving away, $25 value and $25 value. Here's how you win these gift cards. In the comment section of any of the 12 Facebook pages that you're watching the show on, put the answer to this question in. Guys, there are 2 restaurants in the city of Charlottesville, 2 restaurants in the city of Charlottesville where you can smoke a good cigar, a good stogie, or if you're smoking cigarettes, smoke a cigarette in. 2 restaurants you can smoke inside in. What are those 2 restaurants that you can smoke inside in the city of Charlottesville? Name both for a chance to win a $25 gift card to Marie Bet. Just put the answer in the comments section.
We are not endorsing.
We're not endorsing.
We're not
no.
endorsing.
Just
smoking.
a local trivia question. I was trying to do it for the restaurants.
There you go, buddy.
Yeah.
And let's make it a little bit tougher. If you won one of these within the last couple of shows, let's give somebody else a shot. How does that sound?
There we go. I like it. Put those answers in now. Congressman Riggleman, Keith, coming up here.
Excited about it. Yeah. Excited about it. What gave me the idea of asking to come back, I noticed that my gin was getting low. So I thought of, hey, let's... So we talked about that when he was on the show before. That he agreed and graciously agreed to come back and give us an update. As we talked about this earlier in the show today, this is moving really super fast. But there's conversation, positive and negative. If it's right, if it's wrong, all we're trying to do is get some information out. What does reopening a country look like?
Right.
When we asked Jason that when we had him on, from a restaurant perspective, this is like a soft open. What does this look like?
And I'm reaching out to him now, Judah Wickhauer on Skype, to Congressman Denver Riggleman of the 5th Congressional District on Real Talk, and this portion of the program powered by Charlottesville Settlement Company. We're live on the I Love CVille Network, 12 Facebook pages. I see 8 different states watching the program now, and viewers from Northern Virginia all the way down to Asheville, North Carolina. Judah, are we okay to welcome the Congressman on the program? We got the thumbs up. Denver Riggleman, you are live on the program here. A lot of questions already coming in for you, sir. I'm going to get out of your way. I'm going to thank you for joining us on the show, and then some major news yesterday from the president about trying to open this economy again. Denver Riggleman, the show is yours, sir.
Well, thanks for having me again. I appreciate it. Hope the sound is good. I think we did a pretty good sound check, so hope everybody can hear.
What's that?
Yeah,
if you can turn up your sound a little bit, if you can do that, and then we got you loud and clear.
Let me see what I can do here.
We got you, Denver.
You got me?
Yep.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Okay. Just want to make sure. But yeah, we've been watching this pretty closely on how we reopen, business, how we reopen all the things that we're trying to do. So yesterday I sent in a letter. How you doing, Keith? I sent in a letter yesterday. Nice mask. I sent in a letter yesterday to the president, official letter.
Sorry, man.
I tell you. I sent in an official letter to the president on how to use data, really predictive analysis to reopen business. And it's something that I've done for many, many years, is using really algorithmic warfare, but using algorithmic principles and utilizing data consolidation and correlation for sort of an interconnected network of fusion centers from the local, state, and national level. So the letter I thought was pretty well received. I'm working directly with the WIP team. I'm also with the small business team to see how do we reopen the economy in these regional areas as we go forward. I put in a couple bills. I'm the original co-sponsor on the HEROES Act that forgives taxes for everybody on the front line, the medical front lines, because I really believe they're in combat right now against an invisible enemy. And also my bill, which I'm very proud of, is an extension to the Opportunity Zone Act, so that for years down the road, entrepreneurs, those that are investing in these areas, can eventually do something pretty incredible by taking advantage of the Opportunity Zone Act that we did during the Tax Cuts Act. So I think there's two things we got to look at, guys. There's the survive stage, which is now, and then there's the thrive stage. So the HEROES Act for me is part of the survive legislation I'm doing. The thrive legislation is the Opportunities Act extension. So I'm looking at data myself. How can I use data to drive the type of legislation we need to do within constitutional principles to get the economy going? So it's just it's a work in progress, and I'm pretty excited that we're doing some of these things right now.
So Denver, thanks for coming back on, man. I know you're up to here, right? Trying to run a business, take care of your family, and be part of running the country. So thank you very much for taking your time on that. Before we get into what you just said, how you doing, man? How's your family? How's business?
Family's great. I think we've hit. I guess we're getting close to 400,000 ounces of hand sanitizer that we've been able to deliver. It's every day. I got four separate operations going on. Our new shipping in Virginia is going on, which means we've had a increase in labor. But it's really trying to do hand sanitizer, trying to build the ethanol for the hand sanitizer, then having a regular curbside business, then a delivery business, and let my family try to run that. And then while I'm doing the congressional issues, it's been a challenge. But again, like I said before, there's 730 plus thousand people in this district that are in worse shape or the same shape we are. We're just working hard, and my job is to help everybody I can. So
that's great information about the HEROES Act that you sent out. I've personally, I have an uncle right in the middle of it. He's at UVA, just came down from New York. He runs the ERs over at UVA, used to run the ERs over at the VA in New York. And just to kind of tell you how serious this is, one of his friends at the age of 32 passed away from this, actually yesterday. So, this is serious stuff. This is not, this is nothing to be trifle about, even though I wear a mustache, trying to make a little bit of, joke a little bit about it. But this is very serious stuff. So, we're both service, right? Guys, we're kind of used to we understand what a hero looks like. And without a doubt, those guys and gals and folks that are in the hospitals are the heroes. So thank you for getting that out there for them. So one quick question. So something that came up, a couple of them, this may be just a question one can't answer, but how did we run out of money? How did that process work, right? And then I know you're working to get more money, and so, the questions are coming through on that, so I figured this is a great opportunity to do that, or would you like not to answer that question?
I want to answer this question. How did we run out of money? I'll say the first thing. I don't know if you guys saw this from Secretary Mnuchin, but the SBA released more, the SBA backed more loans in 14 days than they had in the prior 14 years. So think about those numbers. We went through the first 190 billion in 5 days. So now that we're at 350 billion loans processed, we started to see that the need was even greater than we thought, but not the need eventually. We thought we'd have to have another tranche. We just didn't think it would happen in 2 weeks. And that's what happens when you shut down that many businesses. The thing I warned about were two things: cascading effects. And if you think from my personal business experience, what happened when I knew that we were going to be forcefully shut down? We stopped our shipment of barrels. We stopped our shipment of grains. We stopped our shipment of glass. We canceled Cintas, right, to come and do our cleaning. We did it ourselves. What does that mean? Every single one of those companies were hit with a financial sort of a credit that they'd have to pay in the future. And we had the same thing, right? What happens to us? Well, if they shut down, really the liquor stores start to shut down, or we shut down our tasting room, what happens to us, right? There's cascading effects at every portion of business. And I said, I think we're going to see an aggressive, a sort of an aggressive application process for SBA loans. And I thought that we probably should have had, what I said eventually is we're going to have $1 trillion. We're going to have $1 trillion in loan assets through the Exchange Stabilization Fund and through the SBA PPP. I think now we're going to look at $1.5 trillion. That's my guess. As far as the $250 billion more that we wanted, as we're trying to tranche this out, I think that we have some people up there who don't understand business and are using this for political purposes, and I think it's a shame.
A lot of questions coming in for you, Congressman Riggleman. I'm going to relay some of them. One of them is coming from Andre Xavier, Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of CVille Hop-On Tours. Takes a lot of folks to your distillery. And he says, please ask Congressman Riggleman what can be done to make Virginia unemployment start processing applications for independent contractors. They are supposed to be receiving the pandemic unemployment assistance. Virginia is one of the few states not distributing the PUA.
Yeah, and I was on the phone with the governor's office yesterday, and the sad part is when you have money that flows and you have sort of this legislation, is the infrastructure of each state, or like for us a Commonwealth, can it absorb that kind of new influx of applications? They just got new server software. They're trying to actually make sure that they can keep up with the volume of applications that are coming in. There is a problem with unemployment. Let's just be honest. There's a problem there with processing it. A lot of it's not based on the goodwill and intentions of those processing it. It's the fact is they do not have the resources. And when I say resources, I'm talking about the technical resources to process it. It's a great question. You're exactly correct. Independent contractors were supposed to be covered in all this, 1099s, LLCs, people under K-1s. And what we've seen is that a lot of the banks, I would say on the loan side, I think they pushed those priorities down arbitrarily. On the unemployment side, they hadn't been processing things of that nature, especially with pandemic monies, and now they have to go back and try to catch up. That was the other warning I had. Not only when we talk about the aggressive nature of the applications, and when you're looking at UI, when you're looking at unemployment and things of that nature, you also have the technical limitations like the SBA site crashing initially, and they had to change it to the banks to be the front end for these PPP loans. We did not have the technical infrastructure in place to absorb this kind of punishment, and I think the legislation, even though it was general, I think people can maneuver within that legislation sometimes arbitrarily that was outside of the intent of it, and we're trying to fix that now. It's a great question, and now that the state has gotten the infrastructure in place, they bought the servers, I hope that you see some.
Another question for you, sir. Small business owner. This is from Dr. Ed Louderback. He's a chiropractor in the area. He says, Congressman Riggleman, welcome to the show. Many small businesses applied on time, really small businesses that really need the money, and we seem to have been overlooked, or we were bounced out of the queue for minor issues that we really may have missed or we had no control of. What can be done to guarantee that the real mom and pop businesses get help if there's a next round of funding? Banks seem to be ignoring us because they're getting a percentage of PPL funds and they don't want to deal with the real small mom and pop guys. I'm going to throw that question to you, sir.
Sure. The average loan right now, when we first started the first week, you could tell the people with resources, and I'm going to give you some statistics and why I get concerned. What a great question. The first week, and sorry if I'm going to throw out some numbers, I've been involved with this every day, 16 hours a day. The first week, the average PPP loan was about, I think it was over $1 million. Now that average has gone down to about $239,000. And what you saw is that the people with the most resources could front load their loans. They had the staff to do it. They had the ability to do it. They had the P&Ls in place, right? They might have had a separate account. Here's what happened. And doctor, here's what really happened in some of these loans. People had blended their operations and personal accounts. When you have a blended account and they're not split up, the banks couldn't automatically say, hey, listen, this must be the breakout with this. This is what people are making, this is what they're not making. So they just said, hey, we're going to push those back. We're going to take the loans that are easy for us to do with pre-existing customers. That's an issue. And then they forgot, by the way, you can run out of money. So here's what happened. You had people front-loading the type of loans they wanted to do based on the documentation that was easy. Those that didn't have their documentation completely in place, they just got pushed to the bottom of the queue. So you had complete chaos and confusion. You had a processing of loans that had never been done before. You think of like I was last time, Bank of the James did $14 million in processing over a weekend, right? They had never done anything like this before. So what you have, doctor, is that you have this thing where the banks just had to do the first in the queue as fast as they could based on legislation. And even though we pushed out that they had to have those loans processed in 10 days, they didn't have the architecture infrastructure to do that either. This next $250 billion was supposed to be for those companies that fell through the cracks. That's why I'm angry. That's why we've had enough of this, and that's why I contact banks every day and say, you better be processing all the loans by law, right? I understand that you have limitations. I understand you're worried about being held harmless for regulatory overreach. I understand that you need all of the SBA loans bought on the secondary market. I understand that you're a little bit suspect on the Main Street lending facilities. I get all that. But we're Americans. Help these small businesses, especially those where you have pre-existing conditions. Approve these loans. You can do your own notes. You have delegated authority to do it. And I think that's just going to be the war. I don't think there's a real fix that I can just say there's a fix. It's really people like me just sort of pounding on them to say, hey, make sure you're covering down on these small businesses that might not have had the perfect documentation because they weren't expecting a pandemic at this point.
So as a small business owner myself, I want to say thank you. Right?
Me too.
This is what it takes. This is what's called leadership. This is what it looks like, right, guys? And making the phone calls and pushing the buttons and trying to get the small business owner taken care of, and it's the same thing you do for the individual, the small individual, right? You sit on the financial services committee, which affects our industry, right? It affects small businesses. So, last time we chatted, you think there was going to be a fourth, maybe a fifth round of this. Are you still feeling that way? And more importantly, do you think we've got this problem fixed so we can be more effective to the small business owner and the individual?
Yeah, we are working through it, and gosh, the amazing amount of issues we've gone through. So I will get a call. I will get a call from a constituent, Denver. I have 1099s. They said they would process it. They said they would use my K1s for my average over a year, and all of a sudden I didn't hear back for 2 weeks. This is a local bank. I get a call from somebody, and I'm going to just put out some names here, and if there's a Bank of America person on here, this is just one example. Got a call from a constituent. We've had our Bank of America applications in for 2 weeks, and they said it was good, and then we just didn't hear back. Yeah. And now they said they're out of money. And because I would say that BOA, as a large bank, you would think they had bigger resources, but they have a lot more customers. They were overwhelmed. Third issue, Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo hit their $10 billion regulated cap based on the issues that they had and the penalties that they had for falsifying customers, and we had to up the Wells Fargo cap arbitrarily so that people could small businesses could get loans from their own bank. Now think about those three separate things that you're working on. Those are huge problems. These are huge structural problems based on things that were unexpected. So when you see this fourth tranche of money, as you're getting to how many tranches, that's like, oh, wait a minute. The low-hanging fruit went in 14 days, $350 billion. By the way, we'll talk about EIDL and that mess here if you guys want to. What a disaster. So I'm sorry, I'm very blunt. So
we like that about you, Congressman.
It's funny. Disaster. I've been accused of that. So
yeah, you've been accused of that also. So what a disaster. And so $17 billion for a $10,000 bridge loan for all these people. And then they changed the rules midway. Just ridiculous. This next tranche is now, okay, we need $250 billion. We're finally getting it figured out for those companies that fell through the cracks. I think after that $250 billion, I'm going to make a prediction that $250 billion will also go in between 10 to 14 years. It'll be gone. Sure. And I'm probably going to say, oh gosh, Denver, what are you saying? That's only $600 billion of a $20 trillion GDP. That's what it is. Yeah. And if you look at small business having 47% of employees in the United States, it makes sense, right? That we're going to need this type of money to fund, right, to give these loans, and some of them forgivable to these small businesses. So I think you're going to see tranche 4, which is the $250 billion. I think the fifth tranche is going to be a blend of exchange stabilization funds for large companies that are suffering, another tranche of SBA monies under the PPP, and an incentivization package for manufacturing in the United States. I think you're going to see number 5 is going to be sort of a blended ESF, Exchange Stabilization Fund, PPP monies, and then incentivization for manufacturing of certain types of products in the U.S. I think that's what you're going to see.
So the folks that I'm talking to that have applied for the PPP, is the ones that had the most success have dealt with small local banks, right? Where you can basically walk in, and we talk about local on the show all the time, and it isn't that the big banks are not good and they don't have price services and all that kind of great stuff, but we've always banked local, right? And if I have a issue like this, I can pick up the phone and call the president of a bank and say, hey, what the heck's going on? So I just wanted to, this is just a shout out, banking local in my opinion is always a good thing. And this is an example of that. And again, I just want to say thank you for what you're doing. I'm going to pass it back to Jerry here in a minute, but I just want to ask a quick question. Get a little bit off the government stuff for the moment. So what does restarting your business look like to you? And the reason I'm saying that is that just might be a great example to others that are saying, okay, how do I had a conversation with a couple of restaurant owners and other business owners. How does this work? So maybe you might want to say by your example, if you're not comfortable, that's fine. But what is it going to look like to ramp up? And oh, by the way, I'm coming in on Saturday because I'm short on gin. So, and I can't support the whole thing. Okay.
First ever meeting with the governor after the pandemic. We're on a call. We have all the congressional delegation. We have Senator Kaine, Senator Warner. We have the executive leads for all the agencies in Virginia, and they're talking about the 10-person rule in the cap. The first thing I said as a business owner, I'm like, you're going to need a square foot mitigation plan. You can't have a brewery that I have up the road here that can hold 650 people have the same 10-person limit as a restaurant that's 400 square feet. That's ludicrous. That doesn't make sense to me. Obviously, people are like, hey, that's a great idea, but it gets lost in the chaff, right? So you try to work through it. For me, here, I'll just talk about the distillery itself. The first thing is my outside tasting area will be my main tasting area. I'll make sure it's covered, make sure it has heaters out there, and make sure we have social distancing. Inside, I'll do the same thing. We'll limit it to social distancing. We'll put marks on the floor. We'll make sure that our employees are wearing masks and gloves and make sure that we're completely sanitizing all the time. What does that mean? That means I can still hold 60 to 70 customers at a time, upstairs, downstairs, and outside. I'll extend my outside tasting area probably another 30 to 40 yards so I can get up to 100 to 150 people that I can serve at a time using social distancing measures. Also, as far as hours, we'll make sure that we have a specific flow in the parking lot, right? I'll have somebody parking people so we have a specific flow, and we'll just make sure that people are social distancing. And we're not going to sit up there, we're not going to be the Gestapo. I'm not going to have a cattle prod out there hitting people if they're not social distancing. What I'm going to do is we'll just gently suggest to people, hey, keep your social distancing there. By the way, we have a couple cattle prods in the distillery.
I was thinking that.
You do.
I was thinking that.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, we got a lot of stuff there. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in distillery we have to protect, and the people are the most important. As far as sales, we would make sure that anytime we have a bottle, we would wipe it off before we give it to the customer. We'd have sanitary wipes everywhere. Obviously, we can create alcohol at a very high level. I wish we had a little sprinkler system that just sprayed vodka on everybody. I think that would really work. That's a joke, by the way. I would not do that. A bit of a fire hazard. Anyway, but we're going to make sure that everything's sanitized. Our hours will be strictly enforced. So again, we already have a protocol or a TTP, tactics, techniques, and procedures. I'm military. We already have a TTP or an SOP in place to make sure that we can open. Every business should be looking at this because I'm telling you right now, we are going to have regional openings, I think, starting to roll middle of May, early June. I know a lot of people said May 1st. The peaks are not working in our favor. I know people want to hear good news. I want to give you good news, but I still think we're looking at July 4th before we have a real good staggered business startup. And I think Labor Day is when you're going to start people seeing to breathe. That is Denver Riggleman's projections just based on the data I see today. That data can sometimes fluctuate. But I think between July 4th and Labor Day is when you're going to see people starting to breathe again.
Question for you, sir. This is from Chris Stevenson's. He says, Congressman Riggleman, I work in Charlottesville. I live in Albemarle County. My wife and I voted for you. Thank you for your service. I'm curious of why the individual stimulus checks, the $1,200 checks, did not consider where somebody was living. I live in Allbaugh, as I mentioned. I got $1,200. My son lives in a major metropolitan area where the cost of living is much higher. Will this change if there's another relief package in play? That's a good question.
That's actually a brilliant question. You're almost looking at the pay differentials that they do in the federal government based on the area that you live in, right? And so, and there's basic allowance for housing, your BAH, your BAS, which is food, but absolutely there's differentials in pay for that's on the military side. On the federal side, there's differentials in pay based on where you live. I think honestly, and let's just go to brass tacks. The technology is not there to fluctuate checks, based on I would say average median family income for each locality. So for example, $1,200 in Fauquier County, which is a $90,000 per year, give or take. Median family income of $4. It doesn't go as far. It doesn't go as far. Maybe is down in Brunswick County that has a $30,000, $7,000 right median family income. Hey, I get that, but there's no. I don't know. I just don't know if the processing power is there for that type of fluctuation. And by the way, people would start screaming if somebody's getting more money because they chose to live in an urban area rather than a rural area. Then you're going to have this massive sort of push back and forth between rural urban areas. People criticize it. They won't, and that's the other thing too, is that you have a technology problem, a political problem. I mean, there's just a lot of issues there. That's a great question. I just don't think at this time it's feasible, just even based on technology.
And there's one other item. The people that are actually working for us, right, in unemployment, they're dealing with this just like we are, right? So it's a technology thing, but there's actually people, real live folks behind that are frightened, that are dealing with all this stuff and getting hit. And so if you end up talking to somebody, this is a rhetorical statement out there, be kind, man. They're in this just like we are, and try to be understanding.
So you just talked about losing somebody to COVID. Talked about the frontline workers. My brother is a critical care float nurse, who's in Northern Virginia right now, guys. And you think about the stress that we're going through. Yeah, do I have tremendous stress? Sure, but I chose to serve and I chose to do these things. I got to suck it up, right? That's my job. But think about the stress of, say, my brother, who is running out of PPE. He calls me and says, brother, I know you're a congressman and you can't treat me any differently, but if you could find me an N95 mask, I'd love you forever. Think about the stress. Your stress is awful, right? And I get it. But somebody who's next to you might have just lost somebody to COVID. Somebody just next to you might have, family that has underlying conditions, or they're terrified, or their business is going under, or they couldn't figure out their way through the PPP mess, right? Or they thought the EIDL was going to save them, and it didn't save them. And there's people who are going through a lot right now. And when you look at the person next to you, I would say the best thing to do, and I'm not trying to sound cheesy, is just hug your neighbor.
Amen, brother.
And that's all I got. Love your neighbor. Don't have any hate in your heart. We don't need
that. Totally. And totally, this is not the time for politics, by the way.
That is correct.
We're all Americans, and this is what we need to be thinking like Americans.
Absolutely.
So, believe it or not, we're pushing pretty quickly up on our time together. I know it's a dynamic personality.
It flies by, baby.
Totally dynamic personalities. Just anything that you want to wrap up and end with, I'm going to toss that out to you, and then Jerry's going to take one more stab at it. But I just wanted to say personally, thank you for doing this. I know you're up to your, like you said, your ears and alligators. And you're welcome anytime to get on the show. We'll bring you back as often as you'd like to come back on to share information with the public. So it's yours for a couple of minutes, Congressman.
Yeah, I would just say, and we'll get back to, if you have any other questions, that somebody said the other day, there's this feeling, sometimes of despair, that we're having some kind of fundamental change in American society. Guess what? Things change all the time. And I would say after 9/11, you had some of that despair in the days after that. And I remember, loading a Connex as an intel officer, getting ready to load a C5 headed through Germany to Diego. And that despair and that fear, and you're looking over your shoulder at your daughter's waving at the little flag, and you're getting on to go to war. Guess what happens when you get there? There's something changes in you where you're like, hey, you know what? I'm tired of being afraid. My family's tired of being afraid. It's time right now. It's time to perform. So I think we're going from uncertainty. Then you go through a transition to performance. And I would say as Americans, I think we're getting to the point where we need to perform. And that perform is having better legislation. That perform is making sure that technical issues are taken care of, all the things that we do on the government side, but the government is not the answer. The answer is the people and how you respond. And I think now you're seeing the performance and respond stage of this. And I would humbly suggest it's time to feel hope, not despair. And I would say, based on America and what we've gone through before, we've been gone through terrible things. This is the time to feel hope. This is the time to look at that person next to you and say, I'm here to help you. And I really do believe if you value people, obviously you got to put the oxygen on yourself first before you put it on the other person, right? You don't, right? But once you got the oxygen on yourself, you need to be spreading that oxygen to as many people as possible. That's all we're trying to do as people, as our family. That's the people that have come in to help us. That's the volunteers that's given us bottles and boxes and just dropping stuff off randomly, or people just coming to say thank you with a social distancing 10-foot wave and tears. it's time to do that. And so let's have some hope. Let's get into the performance part of this. Let's not point fingers. Let's try to come together as a community, and I think we're going to.
That gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, I'm in tears.
Yeah,
But
you
we-
just gave me goosebumps.
So there's two things we say on the show. If you point fingers, that means three more are pointing back at you, right? So never point a finger as I point a finger at you. And the second thing that is our mantra is stay safe and stay positive. And Judah, our director, has been popping this up periodically during the show that to stay safe, stay positive. So, brother,
That's
stay
perfect.
safe, stay positive, and I'll see you on Saturday because I need some gin. Take care.
I
know you can.
Thank you,
help.
Congressman. You have a
Thank
good
you.
one.
You all
Take care. God bless.
Be safe.
Goodness gracious, goosebumps.
Oh yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. So it's he's graciously agreed to come on, and I'm going to continue to ask
Please.
him. He's a direct line into frankly the Financial Services Committee, which is right in the middle of this stuff. And so if anybody knows how this is what the next package is going to look like, it's clearly going to be him. And I super appreciate what he's doing by engaging. And when he says 16 hours a day, I suspect that's probably a little conservative. I bet you he's on the phone a lot longer than that.
Oh.
I got a 5:30 phone call text from him, so I know he's been up.
Well done, Congressman Riggleman. Welcome to the program, Amy Benson, the entrepreneur, the owner of Moose's by the Creek. She's expanded. She's got a nice little bar over there. She's got a U-Haul that she's running. Amy Benson, an accountant. You know I love you, Amy, here on this program. Ed Lauterbach, the entrepreneur and chiropractor, says, I hear some Queens, New York in Keith Smith's voice.
Yeah.
That's from Ed. You want to relay something to Ed
he
on
knows
that?
that too, by the way.
This has been a great program.
It would be Brooklyn, but that's okay.
It's Brooklyn, Dr. Lauterbach. I'm going to throw this to you here. Hey, we got the trivia questions. No right answers. This is the first question that's been so tough that people cannot get. We have two $25 gift cards to Marie Bet on Rose Hill and on Water Street. Two $25 gift cards. There are two restaurants in the city of Charlottesville where you can smoke a nice stogie inside the restaurant. What are the names of the two restaurants for a $25 gift card to Marie Bet? Just put the answer in the comment section.
I don't even know what they are.
It's a tough question.
Really?
It's a good one. There's two of them. They have separate ventilations, and that's why you can do it. That's a huge hint. It's separate ventilations, and that's why these restaurants allow you to smoke inside.
Are they separate rooms that you can smoke in?
Yeah, that's one of them is a separate room. One of them is not. I really, honestly, one of them I see how they get away with it. The other one, I have no idea how they legally can get away with this, Smith.
Maybe it's a little bit of this.
Maybe they're not after this show.
Nice job, Jerry.
Shoot.
You just put a business out of business. Well done. Well done, Miller. Well done. Well done.
Dot the I's and cross the T's, my friend.
Like I said, our goal here for the foreseeable future is just try to bring as good information to it. Real estate is still getting done, right? And we've covered that enough. So we're just going to try to keep on bringing some information in. Like I said, next Friday, we're going to have a regional and national known a doctor of economics come in. And
Big time.
And I think we're going to end up keeping her on for an hour. And so we're going to do a little push out before the show. Excuse me, I'm losing my mask here. Push out before the show so folks can ask some questions of the good doctor. So, be safe, stay positive, everybody. This too shall pass, and we will get through this. And, the American spirit is well alive.
Yes.
Well alive.
Let's emphasize that again, because and Congressman Riggleman really highlighted this. He goes, the government is not the answer.
Sure.
It's the American spirit.
Sure.
And once our backs are against the walls as Americans, we may have had that fear and that uncertainty and that despair and that depression and that, holy shit, what am I going to do? And everybody out there felt that way, and that's normal. But how mine has changed is like, I got this. I'm going to make this better.
Sure.
I'm going to get stronger. I'm going to improve as a chief executive and as an owner. And I'm going to take this business to new heights. And I'm doing it.
So this is just four things. 9/11, the crash in 2008, which affected the country big time. Our incident here in August in 2017, right? And this, we've got through all of them. We will continue to get through all of them. We just need to be understanding and kind to one another. And we will get through this together. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind about it. This is who we are as a country. This is who we are as a region. This is who we are as Charlottesville. This is who we are as Fluvanna County, Albemarle County, Nelson, Greene, Louisa, and the world. We will get through this together. Just a little caveat to it, just a little positive note. As those who watch know, we have family in Europe, and they already started opening businesses and opening restaurants, very similar to what the congressman just said. Restaurants are opening up with certain social distancing. So they've actually been doing that in certain countries.
Look at what China's doing. They're slowly rolling it out. You got Starbucks in China that are coming out.
Sure.
You got, like you said, countries in Europe. It's going to be a slow rollout.
Mm-hmm.
He gave us a little time frame. What did he say? Labor Day?
Yeah, it was kind of a loaded question to ask the congressman.
Yeah, but you had to ask it.
I had to ask
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So and he handled it well. I think this is just going to. I think the timeline is just going to be different for different areas, right? I don't think you could just say, hey, this is all now over with. So I just think keep a close eye on what your local governments are telling you. Play by the rules. That's important.
Yeah.
And love one another.
You're well said. We'll end it on that. Your better 7/8, Yonna Smith, who's watching at your casa in Fluvanna, says the American spirit, the human spirit, will get us through this, gentlemen. Well said, Yonna.
So most know Yonna's a naturalized citizen, and I love our country, but I'll tell you what. She really, it's just
she
unbelievable.
Yeah. Red, white, and blue, baby.
Red, white, and blue. Bleeds it. Thanks, brother.
Love you.
We weren't supposed to do that. We got the sanitizer.
Nothing but love for you.
Yeah, same here, my friend.
that.
No, same here.
Next Tuesday, Real Talk on the I Love CVille Network, Tuesday at 10:15 a.m. Keith has taken this program to another level. Getting congressmen, getting renowned economists to give us, a congressman literally offered us and you, the viewer, half an hour of his time during a COVID-19 pandemic.
Mm-hmm. So thank you.
A congressman. Mm-hmm. That says something right there. We will see you on Tuesday at 10:15 a.m. This show archived on the YesTeamRealtors.com. We will archive it also on the I Love CVille Network. And for the next 2 weeks, we will syndicate it across our network, 17 Facebook pages, 17 Twitter accounts, an e-newsletter that goes out to 130,000 inboxes. We have a podcast on iTunes and Apple Podcasts, ilovecville.com, and the third largest Instagram behind UVA in the city of Charlottesville. It is Real Talk, powered by Keith and Yonna of the Yes Team Realtors. Enjoy your Friday, guys. Dude, I'm going to straight up say it, and I know the mics are still hot. That was one of the best shows we've ever done.
Thank you.
Well done, Judah Wickhauer. We start the program on time. We had breathing room beforehand. All the audio went well.
Perfect. I could hear it perfectly.
I mean,